All right, we want to look into something different other than what we have been doing, although it's still within the purview of our mandate, and we will see. So we're also going to look into clips from Apostle AROME OSAYI, and as well, there is something currently happening on the international space talking about LGBT and their rights. I saw a video whereby there was a total outburst between LGBT parents and woke LGBT parents and some Christian parents and Muslim parents. And at this point, we saw Christian parents and Muslim parents coming together to agree on something I feel we should discuss about. Though we might feel that things pertaining to LGBT is not prevailing at this time, but if we don't have a firm decision and a firm stance on what should our culture is like and our culture should be, we might at one point find ourselves grappling over issues like this. We go into the video. If you have not subscribed to our channel, kindly help us to subscribe to our channel. This will help the channel to grow, and as well, we want to share our content. Like the content, share the content. You can as well scroll down after this video, of course, to see more other works which you have done on this channel. Please help us to grow this channel and the work which we are doing on this channel. Now let's go into the video.
Give you a little bit more context of what happened here. Parents in Dearborn, Michigan found out the school system is using certain books to do the very opposite of what education is supposed to do. There was a school board meeting at which about 1,000 people gathered in Dearborn, Michigan. Muslim and Christian parents were on one camp fighting for their kids to have what most would call a normal education process without any woke, sexual, homosexual, transsexual ideologies being injected in their minds. And on the other camp, you have woke LGBTQ parents who are fighting more so for themselves than for their kids, and things went south very quickly. Let me show you some of what was said.
This is not a debate about books. It's a debate about culture. And let's just admit that. Because
be respectful
people
and allow someone
who want to ban books about gay people and come up and use words like pedophile to describe gay people, who use words like sexual perversion to describe gay people. You're not trying to ban a book. You're trying to ban gay people. That's what this is about. And it's obvious because the signs are there. Let's talk about what this really is. You hate gay people, and it's obvious because look at how you behave when one gay person speaks. Look at how you act, and your children are watching.
Mr. Stone, you need to address the board. You need to address the board and not the audience.
Yes, well, I'd like to also say this. Characters in books deserve to be defended. Every kind of character, gay characters, black characters, every diverse kind of character that can exist in a book belongs in our libraries. And you know what? They belong for one very simple reason, because literature reflects reality.
Address the board, please.
Now, I don't know what you guys are trying to do. I don't know, why didn't you take these books out and say, that's it, we're done with these books, but you guys want to sit here, just keep the books, you know. Instead of you guys taking the 6 books out, we wouldn't even be here. What's the problem? What's the agenda? What are you getting out of it? It's getting ridiculous. People got kids out here telling you, oh, we want these books out. You worried about the gay people? No problem. We're not worried about the gay people. We're worried about our children. Okay? And second of all, I don't want to hear anybody, okay, sitting there saying, oh, you guys are offending the gay. These are kids. They can be 18. If they want to become gay, let them become gay. Who cares? It's not our problem. We don't want kids to have access to these books. It's nice and simple. I'm not going to address the situation no more. It is. It is what it is.
And it seems like, and I hope I'm mistaken in my assessment, that some members of this board have inclined towards an insane liberal LGBT ideology that holds many fanatical views, but none so deranged as the idea that is good and students should have access to material in school as part of education. And the reality is The proponents of LGBT liberal ideology here and elsewhere are fine with democracy as long as people vote for their fanatical views and as long as it supports their wicked agendas. If people vote against their views, the liberal authority blocks the democratic process and imposes the LGBT liberal positions on the populace. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the Board of Education, if democracy matters, we are the majority here in Dearborn. Let us draw the boundaries on appropriateness.
So the school board has done its duty. You've listened to the community's concerns, done your investigation, presented a reasonable program that allows each parent to make these decisions for their kids. And I, for one, won't give up my rights as a father to anyone whose parenting skills are so fragile their teenagers can be undone by ink on a page. It's time for you to draw your line and stand by it. Much of the community will stand with you despite all of this. If you cave and remove these books, they may believe they've won, but it doesn't make them right. History will judge them on that, and it will judge you. This nation does not look back fondly on such efforts to subdue its freedom.
Every parent has a right to object to the things their kids are being exposed to, but there is a breaking point. And the breaking point is this: the fundamental existence of school is not to learn about sexual pleasure, not to learn about new sex acts. The fundamental purpose of school is to prepare our kids to be successful adults who can go off and have careers. And it is up to every parent to then teach their kids morality. It is out of the place for the school to do it, and I reject any notion that parents here are filled with hate or bigotry. The parents don't want their kids sexualized. If other people want to sexualize their kids, that's their business.
What we are looking at now is a current full-blown war between the woke LGBT parents and the Christian parents and the Muslim parents. All they are out fighting for the LGBT parents. Basically, from everything you have seen here, they are fighting for their own right. Mark me, they are fighting for their own right in respect of the fact that they have children. I mean, why should they concern themselves about children that they do not actually give birth to? Well, from everything you have seen, it's obvious they are just only fighting for their own existence. Why, on the other hand, we see the Muslim parents and the Christian parents coming at least agreeing on a thing, and they are insisting on the fact that you don't have the right to sexualize our children. You don't have the right to teach our children on the issues of morality. And the funny thing in this thing is, how can it be that just a few set of people are coming out to impose the way of life, impose a teaching in form of a character in a book, try to push it down on people's children, and you, at the end of the day, you come out and say, we are in a system called democracy. What is the essence of democracy? If the large population of people, if the large populace of people cannot decide what goes on in the society, and when you have just a few set of people, let's say, for instance, you have a number of 100 people, and you have just the few set of 10 people coming to say, this is how we want the rest 100 people to live. I mean, do you still consider that as democracy? This is what we are seeing. It's actually a full-blown war. Somebody might want to say, well, this is just an issue, something happening in America. Well, just like an interview that was conducted by CNN with an African topmost new leader.
One of the major issues, and it's a holdover from sort of colonial Victorian, is the issue of sexual preference in many African countries. In Kenya, to be gay, the LGBT community is illegal. They just want to have equal rights, the same privacy and equality as all other Kenyans do. Is that something that you aspire to for your country?
I want to be very clear, Christiana. I will not engage in a subject that is of no, it is not of any major importance to the people and the Republic of Kenya. This is not an issue, as you would want to put it, of human rights. This is an issue of society, of our own base as a culture, as a people, regardless of which community you come from. This is not acceptable. This is not agreeable.
So he's basically saying homosexuality is not agreeable. You've just said that you're kind of trying to thread the needle, that The law says one thing, but you respect everybody's rights. Will a RUTO administration crack down, like many other leaders in Africa, on the homosexual LGBTQ community, or will you allow them their human rights and their civil rights?
I think on that subject, President Kenyatta was spot on. We do not want to create a mountain out of a molehill. This is not a big issue for the people of Kenya. When it becomes a big issue for the people of Kenya will make a choice. As it is now, we are grappling with 5 million young people who do not have jobs, 4 million people who are hungry, and that is my concern. That is the focus of the people of Kenya at the moment. When the issue you have discussed about homosexuality and the rights of LGBT will come, the people of Kenya will make a choice, and we will respect the choice of the people of Kenya. For now, Christiana Amanpour, let us focus on the real issues that affect our people.
Yes, basically, it is true that at this point, Africa, this is not one of our major issues. This is not something that we should even present on the table. But what happens when all our challenges have been resolved, just like it was pointed out by this foremost leader? What happens? I'm just asking the question, what happens then when we have solved all the poverty issue, when we have solved all the climate issue, when we have solved all the unemployment issue, when it looks as if there is plenty? What then will now happen? Is it that we'll now begin to grumble over issues as little and as insignificant as the case of sexuality? I mean, whether you like it or not, what I'm trying to bring out from this whole thing is this: when you have a major top leader from the West trying to impose this thing subtly upon Africa, then there is a major issue. And if we don't stand our ground, and decide that this is the way we should go, this is the way which we decide to live our life, this is our culture, as it was pointed out in that interview, this is our way of life. We don't want any insistence, we don't want any imposition, we don't want any interferences from the West. The better for us. If we don't do this, I can tell you, before you know it, it will become a major issue for us down here in Africa. Why do I say this? Just a few people who are currently propagating this kind of gospel, what I call the gospel, this kind of gospel of gay and the likes of that. We have just few people, and most likely, and just like we know, they are doing this thing for the sake of fame and for the sake of the money they get, for the sake of the popularity and the sake of the glamour that comes with it. But what happens when we start our people insisting that this thing should be inculcated or passed into our law, passed into our constitution? Then we begin to have issue. If you think it is not possible, I want to bring the case of Kama. You know the Kama law that was recently passed and signed into bill, that was recently passed and signed into law. You look into that Kama law, you understand that it has given the government a major right over religious organization. As a matter of fact, religious organization has been classified as a set of organization that can be controlled. That is to say, the government have right as it stands now to decide who becomes the head of a church, who becomes the head of a church as an organization, and he has the right to determine the span at which that head can even be in that church. So what does this tell you? At an instant when somebody comes up into power, because we just saw that these are leaders, top leaders, political leaders, even presidents that are pushing the ideas of LGBT, it will become a major norm and a major way of life for people. So what then happens when we have political leaders in our sphere that also support these things? I can tell you, they will use their own power to insist that this thing should be pushed into our constitution. And whether you like it or not, there are a lot of things that we find in our constitution which ordinarily we don't even know how they find their way into it. It is because there are people that are in power that have decided to find a way around it and to push these things, and they become constitution. Whether you like it or not, if we don't start speaking and standing up against this thing, it will become a major issue. Well, of course, you might ask the question, What should we do? Apostle AROME have this to say.
But unfortunately, as massive and as wealthy as most of our centers are, it lacks a vital ingredient that will give it the potential of stirring up the purpose of God. First ingredient that it lacked is the apostolic vision. You see, there was an orientation Jesus gave the functionaries. Are you with me? Now, the orientation Jesus gave the functionaries was not about the size of an organization. The emphasis was not to build an organization. The emphasis was to build a people. One of the challenges of the Jerusalem system in the church in Nigeria is that organizations, massive, high-class organizations, were set up. These organizations are the biggest in the world in terms of Christian organizations. But you see, we can take a cue from such organizations that were built in places like Europe. Such organizations were built in places like the United States of America. If you see the state of some of these nations now, it doesn't look as if there was any strong Christianity at any point in time, because the emphasis became organizational. And I need to tell you quickly, because you are not aware, that society is a reflection of the state of the church. Every time. And I got that from the book of Ezekiel chapter 11. I don't have time for a Bible study to show you how society is a reflection of the church. It's a mirror image of the church. If there's corruption in the society, trust me, the corruption in the church is humongous. If we take the searchlight, you will see pastors that have slept with pastors' wives. You will see pastors that are sleeping. In fact, many arrangements, immorality arrangements, I mean very intelligent ones. Pastors have rented buildings for mistresses in every state, so that when you come, you will think it's prayer. And it is so bad that it's not accepted. And then you are angry that there's corruption in society? No. The plumb line is already in darkness. So darkness will fill the entire territory. That's why if God wants to begin to transform nations, he first comes to his house to judge, to kill, so that he can purge the land. As long as light is in his house, he will have a platform to stand on, to judge the society, to judge kings, to judge men that have taken the commonwealth of nations. But until the church is ready, that level of purging will never take place. Because
I quite agree with him. The church is a reflection of what happens in the society. And when you start seeing a church that is so concerned of mundane things, when you start seeing a church that is so concerned of copying the world system, what you will see is an explosion of world system, is an explosion of the mundane in our larger society. It is time for we as Christians to rise up and begin to find our ways into government. Now remember, there is a chapter in Isaiah that says that it shall come to pass in that day that the mountain of the Lord shall be exalted in the top of the hills. I want you to note that word. It says the mountain of the Lord shall be exalted in the top, not on, in the top of the hill. What does this mean? I believe it's a kind of penetration that has to come in through the system. Of course, when we see the Bible talking about mountains, the mountain talks about institutions in government, major institutions in government, the education institution, the political institution, the media as the media as a mountain, and so many other 7 mountains we have. And so what Isaiah is saying in this time, that in that day it shall be that the mountain of the Lord shall be exalted in the top. So what we need are Christian faithfuls that will infiltrate this mountain, and by so they will rise to the top of the rank and begin to make laws, decisions that will be for the good of the kingdom. It is a call. The reason why I've decided to do this video is a call to open our eyes on what is currently happen in the West, and also bringing forth a warning, because if we do not do something about it, if we do not teach our children the ways of the Lord, at one time we will see ourselves grappling over issues as minor as LGBT and their rights. So it's a call for every Christian, is a call to everyone at this instance to begin to know the ways of the Lord. It is important that we know the way of the Lord.